Welcome to CoexSpace Global Summit, where we remember, reflect, and act. This is a place to inspire and make a call to action to change the world.
Hello, everyone. Gloria Garces here with you, and today we have an amazing treat. The director of the CoexSpace Summit is here with us, Vivian Toussieh. Not only is she a certified meditation instructor, she's the founder of the Mayim Method, and she's written 5 books. 3 of them which are novels, right?
Yeah.
And 2 of them are on
meditation and transformation.
Amazing. And talking about transformation, there's no way you can write a book about transformation if you haven't gone through it yourself. So tell us a little bit about your process and that transition in your own life.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Thank you for being here, Gloria. So it's been tough, to be honest. I was raised in a kind of dysfunctional family. I was very unstable in every way. My mother was sometimes she has health issues, sometimes family issues, many ups and downs emotionally speaking. Then they got divorced, my father and my mother. So I grew up in a very unstable household, and since I remember, I was like a psychologist from my mother. I was the observer. I was very mature in a sense, but in the other hand, I was anxious, very anxious, and I didn't know how to handle my emotions. So I just covered everything, with food. Then, when I was a teenager, with alcohol, and then I didn't realize what was behind, the iceberg. To be honest, for many years. But I was in search for, information. I was always in search of information, and my mother was a seeker. She was a seeker since I remember. So I learned many traditions since I was very young. The Course of Miracle, Buddhism, meditation, Judaism, Christianity, Jesus, like all of it. I remember listening to all of these conversations at my house, and I remember reading a lot and having that sense of inspiration. But in the other hand, I was, not in the right path for myself. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was, having good moments and bad moments. So I studied psychology, like many of us do, to discover myself, and then I started a really rigid and very practical way of living with meditation. I did my master's in transcendental meditation, so I love silence. For the first time, I got into my silence. I went to many retreats. And I remember my first encounter with silence was a lot of crying. I cried so much. And I remember the people around me were so compassionate about it, and they had this ceremony, and I was like the queen of the ceremony. And nowadays I can see myself. I was 19 years old at that time, and I remember crying and feeling that I was, surrounded by others. And I think that was the main thing, being not alone.
You felt embraced in a way.
Embraced and supported.
Beautiful.
In some kind of tribe. Because usually, in these big cities we live in, we're so, doing so many things, and we need to get to a goal. And everybody's in their own path, and you don't want to, make others afraid of what you're going through, or you don't want rejection, or you don't want their judgment. So I felt supported, and then I started understanding that that's why tribes can live longer and better and become what they are, because we used to be in tribes as humans, and we lost that in the big cities, and now with technology, in this rat race we live sometimes. So I started doing circles, meditation circles, classes. I studied yoga. I started my own motherhood, which was another process.
Wow, interesting.
And And I saw something special, when you're going through something and you're not alone, it's a win. Either way, wherever you go, it's a win.
I agree.
So that was the starting point.
And in that, I from what you're telling me, what I feel is you almost found your way back to connection in a very disconnected world where we're all kind of living individualistically. You found your way back to connection, right? It's kind of like a new rebirth.
That's correct.
And how is it that you have been able to guide others through that process? Because we usually go through it ourselves before we help others walk through it.
Yeah. I studied a lot. I study everything I get into my hands and to my eyes and now into my ears, technology. I listen to many classes, many new theories, many new ways to heal. My goal is, healing. Because I believe healing is there for everybody.
Absolutely.
All the time. If you're really open to it, there's a heal. There's always something behind your dysfunction, your health issue, your social environment. There's a message. Correct. Always. So I learned a lot of mind and body connection theories, mind and body connection processes that you can go within and find what's the underlying message for you of what you're going through.
Yes.
And I lead others to do that. I've had so many groups and so many, circles, and I'm a meditation instructor. I found one of my partners. She's amazing, and we've been doing classes for more than 10 years together. And we did this Mayim Method, and Mayim means water in Hebrew. So we believe that we are like drops of water. If you like the ripple effect. Correct. If you change yourself, you do that ripple effect into your environment. Exactly. And different people have different environments, different constellations of people, different ways to get their message.
To receive what's there for them, the message for them.
So now I do a lot of meditation, a lot of one-on-one sessions, and now with CoexSpace, I'm so excited to go forward with this message.
It's interesting because it's very easy for me to see, and I'm sure those who are watching the same, how you fit into the flow of CoexSpace and the message. But how has everything that you've gone through and what you teach and who you are as an essence, helped you to guide your involvement or your role with the CoexSpace Virtual Summit?
Yeah. Susana and I shared office for many years, and it was an interesting story because I just went to live to Miami, and I started to look for an office, and then I went to this doctor's office, and I said, I would like to have an office here. This is the place I would.
You felt it.
I felt it. And that's the way I usually do things, to be honest. It's just a feeling. We have three brains, our actual brain, our heart, and our gut, and I function from my gut. I totally understand that. And then I, go to the intellect and interpret the messages. So I was in the elevator and I saw this woman and I asked her, I would like to, do you know where I can, get some information to rent a space here? And she said, oh, I'm the administrator.
Oh, that's great.
And she looked at me and she said, I'm going to take you to the right place. Just like that. And we went to Susana's office. And when I got there, she looked at me and she said, here are the keys.
Immediately.
So immediately. It was, something special like Susana is and the whole CoexSpace movement is. Because it's, CoexSpace for me is understanding that we're more than our rational mind. And there is a plan, a good plan for everybody, and there's a good plan for humanity.
Yes.
And we all carry that seed. And if we, clean up ourselves, like I said, I did in, connecting with our own bodies and minds and being honest, and then go through the flow
Yes.
of the moment and really, trust that.
Yeah.
And so I started sharing the office, and I started looking, many meetings, many information, and she came to my classes and she said, I want you there. And I said, well, I'm, in healing, what can I, give to CoexSpace? And after a few years, she invited me, and we decided to start with a movement before the building, because I think we are many of us are very anxious to make the change. We're seeing, a global crisis in many ways, in institutions, in politics, in health, in mental health. So I think we're feeling kind of, impatient, and we think we cannot do enough, but we can. So I said, okay, I'm there, and let's start with a summit. Let's bring a lot of us that we're wanting the same, and from different perspectives, different science schemes, different,
different
views of the world, different paths, different histories, different cultures. We're all seeing the same.
Amazing.
Yes.
So you've taken that into your role and just kind of blending it all together.
That's correct.
So you found your way to connection, and now you're connecting others to bring about this message to the world.
That's correct.
In the midst of confusion, in the midst of separation, and so much division, right? It's almost like before our differences kept us apart, but now our differences are highlighted to the point that it brings us together, but not in unity, but in conflict.
Exactly.
So in the process that you were talking about the Mayim Method, we're talking about water, and water to me, it talks about just a warmth, mercy, goodness. How does that process kind of wash over what you're trying to bring to the world now?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Thank you for asking. Water, the elements. I believe in the elements. We're elements. Nature is elements. And we're so stuck in the mind, in old paradigms. Correct. Which, like this summit is called Memory, Reflection, and a Call to Action, And I believe we are so stuck in old paradigms that we cannot see the present, and we cannot see the light in the future. And if we go back to the elements, to be honest, breathe, like
yes.
The air we have, we're 70% or more water, so we can flow into whatever we're going through, even though sometimes it's very painful, to have that trust and faith that something good is going to come. And the more we have those, we have the power to go through anything.
Absolutely.
And then we need to connect back to the earth, back to, nature, trees, the beaches, the mountains. We need nature. We cannot be separate from nature, because we are nature. And coexistence is nature, all the animals coexist, and they're all very different, but we have like ecosystem. We are an ecosystem, and there's a reason why we are so different, and we need to coexist to make that perfect machine. So I did an interview with David Fishman, and he said something like, we are a machine, and the oil for the machine that makes it function well is love.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I end up thinking about, okay, but what is love? And for me, love is that connection of the truth in the moment, being able to open the eyes and see the truth in the moment, and breathe to that, go through that, and something good is going to come from there.
So you were saying that one of the tenets of the summit is also a call to action.
That's correct.
And it's interesting because we are calling for coexistence among us, among humans, also coexisting with the earth, as you mentioned. But we are the species that gets to speak. And yet sometimes we don't speak up. We don't speak up for ourselves and we don't speak up for others. So what is that process of the call to action? And what do we expect to ignite in those who are watching and who are listening to us so that they can also act?
The end point is change. Change is part of life. It's part of the movement. And I think we can get very fearful of acting. And especially when we have all these discordances, like you said, so many differences, so many points of views. So I will go back to the beginning of the interview. We need to be together. That's why we need to be in tribes. Because if you do it alone, it's hard. But if you do it in a group, it's least hard and it's faster, and you can get farther, and you can embrace your voice being in a group when that open space is for you and for all of us. So tribe for me is very important, being together with others, making that call to action. And you ask, how can we say to others, now is the moment and you can do it? I believe the answer is inside of each of us. We have that we have that itch in behind, we have that itching inside of us. So just close your eyes and breathe, and there's something moving you. Yeah.
And it's time to move.
100%.
So one of the things that I think about when I meet an author is that it is a very personal process to come to the point of putting your thoughts, your experiences, your ideas into the written page, but it's also done in a way to provoke a collective reaction.
That's cool.
An individual reaction that's going to provoke a collective reaction. In your process of writing and through your writing, what is it that you desire to provoke people to do?
So actually, I started writing because I needed that healing in myself, first to do a cathartic process of taking everything I was living through at that period of my life. And so I started writing in different themes through personification of something I was living. So it's a story that can tell most of my feelings in different scenes, because I think we can all relate better in a story than, a theoretical expression. So I was through a very difficult time of my life during my teenage years and going through adulthood and trying to make my way in professional way, economic way, and even my health, my new house, so everything. I needed to put order into that. So like I said, with meditation and many different practices like therapy and movement and, exercise, my toolkit, my personal toolkit that I still uses, I needed to express. And I couldn't have enough time to express to others. So I started, I took a course in writing and creative writing, and I started writing, and I saw that writing was the way I can express in the best way I can. I'm very profound. I see things very from the deepest way. Sometimes nobody wants to listen to those deep conversation, or sometimes exactly. Sometimes exactly you can get those moments, but usually we're running around. So through stories, I can tell many things that others can relate, and I feel CoexSpace is telling stories to be inspired and to make change.
Okay. To provoke action.
Provoke action. Yeah.
So how you've talked a lot about your turmoil, the difficult moments in your life, the upbringing, almost like the floor was not firm under you. How is it that now you keep your space in harmony?
Mother of 4, almost 5. My husband has another daughter, which is almost my daughter as well. And my marriage and my work and my patients. So it's a lot. And again, we don't need to carry everything. That's what I found. I don't need to be in charge of everything. Sometimes we think we need to do everything to support.
Yes.
But I found out the more I let go and let that trust and connection guide me, the best things come,
Beautiful.
And that's the only way I can really express. I go through one day at a time because it's a lot in the world we're living in. Let God take care of, let nature take care of, let my body take care. And I'm just an observer. And when I feel I'm not aligned and when I feel I'm going, to more turmoil, like you said, or I'm not expressing how I want to express myself, I go back to basics: breathing, exercise, alignment.
Yes.
I really like the word alignment, because we can see and feel ourselves when we're in alignment and we're not.
Yes.
But I have this thought right now, answering your questions. What we do when we're not supported by others, or we're, in crisis or at war or in something we're not in control, and it's very, very hard. And again, we need to trust something bigger is taking action, because if we don't have that faith, we cannot keep up. So whatever you have in control, in your hands, in your life, put your attention into that. Because if you have something to do with it, you will feel empowered. But if you don't have control on something, you feel de-empowered. So we are powerful. We are very powerful, more than we think. So we go back to that sense of power within, source, and that source, we see the change. We see something.
So in putting all of this together, because you've done so much work to kind of bring the speakers together, the team together, to be able to share a message with those who are watching and who will watch, because I know that the essence of CoexSpace is not just today, but what can we leave? What kind of legacy? What kind of generational transformation? In doing that, in thinking about the tenets of the summit and in that call to action, if I'm asking you now, leave us with a challenge, not a motivational message, a challenge, something that we can go and do, what would that be?
That would be something very basic, which is be kind to your closest people.
And basic, but not necessarily easy.
It's not easy at all. To be honest, that's my hardest part. I can be very profound and have all these theories, but sometimes it's very hard. Married, living with 4 kids, which are completely different. Sometimes my patients, sometimes, being in traffic, being in these big cities. Try to be kind to yourself, because we are very judgmental to ourselves and very hard on ourselves. Behind our mind, there's this voice telling you everything you're doing wrong. So being kind, try to be kind to yourself and others. And come back, try to bring back your power to the moment and just express the best you can. Yeah.
Well, there you go. You have Vivian Toussieh here. She's the director of the CoexSpace Virtual Summit, but also a powerful soul that has gone through the transformation, that has been courageous enough to do the work, the inner work, to express it to others and now help others through the journey. And we leave you here with that challenge. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and particularly to those that you maybe don't like so much.
That's
See
correct.
you later.
Thank you.